All right, welcome everyone once again to Elevator Pitch right here at ICA VCU, Richmond, Virginia. Very, very happy to be here with Mr. J. Plunky Branch, a man of great history in the city of Richmond and worldwide. So appreciate your performance once again.
Thank you very much. We had a good time.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess we can start off with a little bit of your history here in the city of Richmond. It goes really deep, so I guess if you can go all the way kind of back to the beginning and maybe kind of wrap up just kind of who you are a little bit in your experience here in the city.
Well, I'm J. Plunky Branch. I play saxophone, but I'm also an arts activist. I started out here in Richmond, was born here, was educated here, went to school in New York at Columbia University. From there, I went to San Francisco, where I was involved in a number of groups, one of which was called the Third World Communications Group. Then I moved back to New York, where I was involved with the avant-garde jazz scene with people like Ornette Coleman and Sam Rivers and Rahsaan Roland Kirk and Pharoah Sanders, Sun Ra. I, for a time, managed Ornette Coleman's art gallery, which was based in his loft space in the Soho of Manhattan. I came back to Richmond to bring some of what I learned in all those places in New York and in San Francisco back to Richmond. And so I started an organization called Branches of the Arts, which is like a black arts council here in town. Then I got involved with the Federated Arts Council, where I was hired as their program director, and then later as the executive director of an organization called the Richmond Arts District Foundation. My organization, Branches of the Arts, helped foster the development of a number of black organizations in town, including Larry Bland and the Volunteer Choir, but probably most notably, the Richmond Jazz Society. It was founded right in my dining room. I'm very proud to say, and 41 years later, that organization is still going strong. But I'm probably most known for my saxophone playing and my groups, Plunky and Oneness, originally called Plunky and Oneness of Juju, and before that it was called Juju. So yes, I have a 45-year history in the music business.
Yeah, and it's really, really rich, and I think one of the great things about your music is that it's been rediscovered several times over by different generations. So I spent a lot of time in Detroit, and there's a producer from Detroit, J. Dilla. A lot of people consider one of the greatest producers ever, but you have a very interesting story and relationship with him and him doing your music, which is an interesting thing. Would you mind telling me a story about your relationship with him?
Well, J. Dilla was, as you say, a legendary producer, perhaps most noted in his relationship to the hip-hop community. J. Dilla released a song of mine called African Rhythms on an album of his called Welcome to Detroit. And we heard the record. I actually thought he had sampled my record. So I contacted them and said, you know, you guys are using an unauthorized sample of my music on this album. They said, oh, no, we re-recorded that song, and they re-recorded it quite close to the original. And when Muzi, who played the bass on the original, he said, oh no, that's somebody else playing the bass, but it sounded so similar, I thought it was a sample. Once I found out that they had re-recorded it, in the music industry, the concept of cover songs is well known in the music industry. The law says once you publish a song, and publish is a fancy word that means placed on sale to the public. Once a song has been placed on sale to the public, anybody else can record that song. They can do a cover version of that song. And by law, you can only charge them 9 cents a copy. Back originally it was only 7 cents a copy, which means that you could do 1,000 copies and only pay $90, which is why cover tunes are really big in the music industry, because people like Pat Boone would do a cover version of a Little Richard song, and a different audience, a white audience, would appreciate Tutti Frutti sung by Pat Boone, but not be ready for Little Richard's Tutti Frutti. So once I found out that J. Dilla and company had re-recorded my song, I'd done a cover version, I said, well, I talked to my brother and my son, and I said, well, maybe we should go after them for our mechanical royalties. Then I said, no, these are just some young guys from Detroit. It probably won't amount to much of anything anyway, so I'll just let them go. And so, as it turns out, that song, his version of it, was quite popular. And in fact, That was about 1999 or maybe 2000, around that time when he released it. Then in 2017 or maybe 2016, a rapper who I'm almost ashamed to say I didn't know at the time, J. Cole, sampled the J. Dilla version of my song. And so the epilogue of that story is that I made more money off of J. Cole's little bit of sample of the copy of my song than I ever made with the original song. I don't know what kind of money J. Cole makes, but I've made thousands of dollars from my little teeny part of that. So that's the moral of my story.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing to look at, because within the hip-hop community, you really don't find quite as much sampling now, particularly because of the legal and the financial hurdles that come with doing that. So it's good to hear that a larger scale artist who does have the budget to be able to put towards that type of thing is actually making sure that you get your money as well and you don't have to chase them down.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of being sampled a number of times. Big Pun, before he died, on his last record, used a sample of mine, of which I was paid royally because it was an unauthorized sample. But KRS-One and a number of other famous artists have sampled my music. As you mentioned, my music has been resurrected a couple of different times. The song African Rhythms was recorded in 1975. And then 20-some years later, in the late 90s, J. Dilla re-recorded it. Then 20 years after that, J. Cole did it. And so we've had, the opportunity to have our music resurrected. And in fact, in this day and age, we have made a deal for our entire Blackfire catalog with a record label, Strut Records, out of London, which is associated with K7 in Germany, and they are re-releasing my entire catalog. And so I have new life for music that was, in some instances, 40, 30, 20 years ago recorded. And now I'm in the process of recording a whole new catalog of music in conjunction with them. And so going forward, you can look for some avant-garde jazz from me, some spoken word, some hip-hop, some soul music, some Afro beat. We're quite active even today.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the amazing things with listening to your albums, the wide range of them. They always have reflected the times, but they've also been very progressive as well. So, you think through the 70s, through the 80s, I have a lot of the kind of, smoother jazz albums in there. But they also always have that African essence to it, that juju, I believe is what you would call it.
Exactly right. That's really what Oneness is about. My group started as called Juju. And when we moved to Richmond, we found that there was not a large market for avant-garde African screaming saxophone, wild percussive music. Richmond in some ways influenced us. We included more R&B and soul music elements to it. We added vocals, we added guitar, we added drum set. But the concept was, we didn't stray too far from that original Juju concept, this idea of improvisational, spiritual. The idea was that all black music is African. All black music has different degrees of the elements of rhythm, energy, improvisation, spirituality, cultural upliftment. These are things that are endemic to all of the black music genres. And so for me, I can do soul music, I can do hip hop, I can do jazz music. It's all essentially the same. It's a communicative tool to try to uplift the community. And that's how I want the music to be judged. How well does it serve the community? How well does it inspire us to be better?
Right, and I think using that metric, your music is legendary in all kinds of ways. And like you said, it's about to be rediscovered once again by a whole nother generation of people. So we appreciate you coming here and stopping by the elevator pitch. We appreciate you representing the city of Richmond in the way that you do around the world. So we always ask people, being here in the elevator pitch, what did you think about playing in an elevator, and would you play in an elevator again?
Well, before you guys got here with that concept, I saw this elevator and thought it would be a great place to do a video. And in fact, before this building even opened, or at its opening, I shot some video in this elevator. So I did think that this elevator is quite spectacular, actually. It has a light show, it's got chrome, it's reflective, and it's quite large. So I'm with it, as they say.
That's beautiful.
And I'm happy to come back.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we were able to bring that all together and align in that way. So, Plunky, once again, thank you so much for coming here to the ICA for Elevator Pitch. And yeah, we look forward to checking out your music in the future.
Thank you so much. Wisdom, peace, and love through music.
Yes, sir.